NBA insider Marc Stein joined CHGO, and he is disputing the idea that there is no trade market for Nikola Vucevic. We're going to talk about it. And then we are going to touch on letting the emotions go out of the Josh Giddey situation and understand this is a part of negotiations when it comes to Josh Giddey. Like it or don't like it. That's what it is. But y'all know we're going to talk about it all, break it all down, but you gotta hear the music first.
Cognac, gang.
Giddey-Bulls podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on another daily episode. So if you're tuned in and you ready to talk Bulls basketball, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And we appreciate y'all over here for showing all that tremendous support. Appreciate it. But hey, my man's NBA insider Marc Stein joined CHGO. He talked about a little bit of Nikola Vucevic, and he is disputing the idea that there is no trade market. He went on to say this: I could say that I'm not buying the notion that there is no market for Vooch. The importance of a big man in today's NBA is only rising after all the talk that the NBA was going away from traditional big man, and with the season Vooch just had and now entering the last year of his deal, maybe not today, but once the season unfolds between now and the deadline in February, I mean, if I were the Bulls, I would be waiting to see what kind of market forms. So, hey, you take it for what it is. I say you got to figure out a solution. I know that this front office has been very, very weird when it came to situations like this. We understand that a lot of the moves that they have made have left a lot of us up in arms and very disappointed at the outcomes. Outside of what initially took place when they first started to build that first iteration of the Chicago Bulls, when they went out and got Vooch, then in that offseason got Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, and Lonzo Ball. Everything after that has been a little bit questionable. We talking about the reluctance to move Andre Drummond and then suddenly allowing him to walk after the season. We talking about just the recent trade between Lonzo Ball and Isaac Okoro, who some feel that there should have been some draft capital included in that. I don't necessarily agree with it, especially because the Cleveland Cavaliers are getting a player that has only played 70 games over the last few seasons. So yeah, that was one of those things. But then also looking at when Lonzo Ball initially went down, you look at situations and you're like, bro, do something. Go and grab a replacement for Lonzo Ball to help the Chicago Bulls team while we had a Zach LaVine, while we had a DeMar DeRozan. And I will say that Marc Stein has one point. There could be a time to where if Nikola Vucevic is still on this team, I believe there could potentially be a market for him. But is that market something that the Chicago Bulls will be able to exploit in a positive way for once in their lifetime? That's going to be the ultimate question, because once Zach LaVine was moved, a lot of people felt like there should have been some draft capital. There should have been some players included with that draft capital. But yeah, the Chicago Bulls only wanted players in return and didn't get any draft capital in that, especially when what is going on currently with the Chicago Bulls right now. You look at the situation with Josh Giddey, and when that trade went down, we're waiting and waiting and waiting to see if one of the ESPN guys that was dropping the news was going to say, yeah, and Oklahoma City Thunder are including a first round pick. And it never happened. So I say that there is a possibility that Nikola Vucevic could have a market once the season starts, especially if he go out there and do what he does, and that's to give you 20 and 10 every single night, still be able to hit the three, still be able to get you some nice rebounds, not going to do much on the defensive side. But to Mark's point, there could very well be a situation to where a team loses a big man, or a team feel like they need a different style of a big man coming off the bench, or potentially to fill in some, staggering minutes with whoever that starter is over there, to provide them with some type of offensive push while the season is going on, just to see if they can take another step forward and then go out there and offer the Chicago Bulls some type of trade package that makes sense for either side. But yeah, I'm not even gonna lie to you, and I'm not even gonna sell you short. I'm not too confident in what this front office could potentially do. Y'all know what one of my options are when it comes to Nikola Vucevic, and that's simply just buy him out and let him go. Simply because the Chicago Bulls have not shown me that they are good when it comes to negotiating trades. That's just what it seems like. Maybe that's what the market is. Maybe that's how teams are kind of fighting back against going against the second apron. Maybe that's just where we are right now. Or teams just don't really respect the Chicago Bulls front office when it comes to making said moves. Now, would the Chicago Bulls be reluctant, or will the Chicago Bulls be up to the idea of saying, hey, okay, yeah, we'll trade Nikola Vucevic for a play in a couple seconds? Maybe. And that may be what the market is dictating at that particular time. You know what I'm saying? So at this particular time, we look at this situation and we just say, look, man, I don't necessarily want to see the guy start the season with the Chicago Bulls. That's just me. I know it's not all what, everybody doesn't agree with it, and you don't necessarily have to. You have the right to have it and draw your own conclusions on what you want to see happen with the Nikola Vucevic situation. But I said plenty of times, and I'll say it again. I have came to the conclusion that I would like to see Nikola Vucevic off my team and just allow the young guys to play with the young guys to see who can rise up and who could potentially go ahead and take the reins as we push forward into this new iteration of a youthful basketball team. And I just think that Nikola Vucevic does not belong. Now that I can't sit here though, outside of what my belief is, I can't sit here and say it's not a bad idea. It's not. It's not a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? I think that is something that you could absolutely explore, especially more teams might be willing to take on Nikola Vucevic, knowing that they don't have to hold on to him long term. So then that's something that you can revisit. I think that you can go either way with the discussion personally on what you feel. Me, if I'm from the outside looking in, outside of my personal feelings, I think that the Chicago Bulls are perfectly fine with allowing that market to develop for itself. And not, like I said, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. It's not what I would like to see, but I think that is something that they can take advantage of just to say, hey, let's wait a little bit longer. Once January gets here, we'll start picking up the phone to see if somebody actually wants Nikola Vucevic. Because to Marc Stein's point, there's not many bigs that's coming out here and doing what Nikola Vucevic is currently doing, but there's not a lot. There's also a couple bigs that are doing what Nikola Vucevic doesn't necessarily do on the defensive side as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what teams come out and start picking up the phone. But the thing that the Chicago Bulls cannot do is call them first. That's how you lose leverage. But however it goes, we'll see. And we'll make sure we keep y'all updated on that. We obviously, Nikola Vucevic is a part of the team right now. And be quite frank with you, there's some outlets out there saying that there are some teams from overseas that are trying to get Nikola Vucevic to leave the NBA and come play overseas. Hey, big dog. Hey, big dog. Hey, big dog. We'll pack your bag for you, goddamn. I'll pack your bag for you. But that's just me being a little petty. But the objective side is saying that you can very well go into this situation and just handle it in a way to where you're looking at it and saying, hey, he ain't a bad teammate. He can still give us a little bit of something. Yeah, as much as it pains me, he can still give the Chicago Bulls something. And you can see if that market develops on its own. And then we can go ahead and finally move on. Maybe once the new year hit in 2026, we start off with the new year, new me quotes. Maybe we'll see. But y'all let me know y'all thoughts and everything down below on that in regards to Nikola Vucevic. Do you believe that a market will develop for Nikola Vucevic? I think if they hold on to him, there will be a small market. But again, nothing is guaranteed. I'd rather see him eventually just be off my team. Maybe a buyout comes at that particular time because they know that a lot of teams know that Nikola Vucevic and the Chicago Bulls days are numbered. So will a market develop? We'll see. But hey, we'll move on. But before we go, I want to talk about the Josh Giddey negotiations, and because this is going to be a segue to what me and C Dub is going to be talking about later today. It's definitely going to be an interesting conversation about Josh Giddey and the contract negotiations. And there's some people who feels, you know what I'm saying, that it's a bit disrespectful. There's some that believes that the Bulls are doing the right thing. And I'm on, hey, this is a part of negotiations. You get new information, you draw new conclusions and be able to come up with new ideas. And like I told C Dub one time when we was on live, the market has spoken. Nobody is trying to give Josh Giddey 30 million. 16 NBA executives polled and said he's not worth 30 million. A lot of teams around here don't want to go out there and just chuck up a lot of money to a guy that they don't really necessarily know about. And whether you like it or love it, don't be emotional about it. Look at what the market is telling you. The market is telling you where they stand with Josh Giddey and what they believe about Josh Giddey. I always held myself to a standard of consistency when it comes to my players. I don't give it. I like that certain players can have a good half of a season. I like that certain players can have a good stretch of a season. But when we talk about top dollars and you absolutely have to give a guy certain type of money, you have to be a consistently good basketball player. We can say that the sample size is well enough to make that determination. We can make up and draw injury conclusions. That's not the Chicago Bulls position right now. We have to look at it from not just our personal lens, but we got to look at it from the lens of the Chicago Bulls as well. It's not gonna always be, you know what I'm saying, they're gonna just stamp him and have him sign the $30 million check. That's just my view on it. And the Chicago Bulls, they made their dumbass mistake by signing Patrick Williams to this 18 million. So you gotta understand that there will be some you know, uh a little bit of feeling and thought to not just jump into the deep end and sign Josh Giddey to a $30 million contract. That's just what it is. Is it right that the Chicago Bulls are taking it out on Josh Giddey? Probably not, because what happened with P. Will is not Josh Giddey's fault. But also, what happened with Emmanuel Quickly and Jalen Suggs is not the Chicago Bulls' fault. So we got to look at it from that particular moment, and we have to look into what the market is saying. You call it how you see it, and that's how I see it. And we will continue this conversation later today about Josh Giddey and the negotiations and a number of other topics today when we go live later today, because I definitely got to hear Unk's thoughts on this, because I already imagine and I'm preparing myself for a back and forth on this, because it's just gonna be ridiculous to see some of my peoples act crazy, but then it's gonna be a good moment just to have good basketball discussions. So y'all make sure y'all stay locked in, tuned in, and ready for that, because we definitely will continue the conversation. But just wanted to prepare you all and give just a little bit of thought. Don't get emotional about negotiations, because these are a part of negotiations. These what happen in negotiations. They make an offer, you counter the offer. They counter the offer, you counter the offer, until you can come to a common ground. So, hey, that's how it all works. That is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Make sure before you get up out of there, you hit a like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell. Drop your comments below. Let us know how you feeling. And y'all already know, man, I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac.